Hey guys, it's April and welcome back to my channel. And today, before we dive right into Crimetober, I wanted to give you an update of a case we covered last October. As you can probably guess, it's the Chris Watts case. Now, I want to say right here that this is all alleged. I am just a girl that can search on the internet for updates, and honestly, this video is going to be a little bit more gossipy than my usual videos. So just take everything in this video with a grain of salt. So if you haven't already, you should go and watch my Chris Watts video, but let's just dive right in. So for you guys that don't know, this is the Watts family, Shanann, Chris, and their two daughters, Bella and Cece. Now, Shanann is pregnant with Nico at the time of her murder also. Shanann sold Thrive, and she was very much active on Facebook because Thrive is an MLM, which thrives in social media. So she was constantly posting pictures and videos of her and her family and how much Thrive has helped her, and just sharing her life with everyone that followed her. And through all of her videos on Facebook, they just seemed like the perfect family. And these girls worshipped their dad, absolutely worshipped him, and like trusted him and just cared so much about him. The way these girls would look at him, it breaks my heart to know that he's the one that killed them. Chris was having an affair with a woman named Nicole Kessinger that he met at his work at Anadarko, and according to Chris, he just snapped one night. He strangled his wife to death and wrapped her up in a sheet and drug her and baby Nico downstairs and into his truck. He then picked up his two girls and put them also in the truck with their feet sitting on Shanann, who's dead in the floor. Once he got to his work, he then suffocated his kids to death and put them in the oil tanks and buried Shanann and Nico in a shallow grave. And then went to work like he was totally fine. And during the investigation, Chris swears he has only had an affair on Shanann with Nicole. But there were quite a few people coming forward claiming that they had had a relationship or even just like a lustful relationship with Chris, men and women. But Chris, of course, said this was false. And Chris has been very vocal and has said to multiple people that if he would have never met Nicole, none of this would have ever happened to his family. But he really doesn't ever elaborate on what he means by that. So let's talk about things that have happened since he's been in prison. Something that we found out is that Shanann did have Oxycontin in her system that Chris gave her. Now, Chris swears he will never say where he got this Oxycontin from, but there's a lot of people that talk about it being Nicole. I mean, he was spending so much time with her at the time. Where else would he have really gotten it from if you think about it? And we also found out that in April 2018, Shanann had went to a dinner event with her friend. And you know, at dinner events, you sit all around the table, and sometimes you sit with people you don't really know. At her table was a lawyer, and then she started asking him some questions about divorce and how that type of stuff works. But a lot of people think that obviously with this type of information, he probably was seeing Nicole back in at least April. And this next point drives me insane. It makes me irrationally mad. But Chris's family claimed that this baby probably is not Chris's, that Nico had a different dad. So they got that baby DNA tested against Chris. And the dad tried to come out and say that when they came out and told them the results, they said, yes, it's Chris's. But they never specified a last name. So it could clearly not be Chris Watts. Maybe she was having an affair with another guy named Chris. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense on how much work that would have to be to say that this baby is not Chris Watts's. Evidently, all he thinks about in prison is his daughters, which good. You should be haunted with that for the rest of your life. And he says that he just constantly hears Celeste, I think it is, saying, "No, Daddy, no. No, Daddy, no." And Chris gets a ton of mail in prison. A ton. Dozens of letters a day. And just from random people. A lot of them telling him he needs to go kill himself. Some trying to, preach to him, minister to him, that type of thing. But then he gets a lot of women that are in love with him, sending him provocative pictures, telling him how much they're in love with him. And he has one of these girls that he considers his girlfriend. And he writes most of these people back because honestly, he just has nothing else to do. And in July 2019, this is another part that just infuriates me. Shanann's dad had to come and make a public speech begging them to stop harassing and bullying their family. That the public was just being so mean to Shanann's family after, I'm pretty sure it was Cindy Watts's book. And Chris actually never hired a paid attorney. His family said they were going to, but he ended up just sticking with his public defenders because he said those people were actually nice to him and that seemed like they wanted to help them. Which, buddy, they're just doing their job, And Chris's family was really judged on how they acted with this situation because they really did not speak at all about Shanann. And they weren't very upset, it seemed, either. But his mom did say she would feel like a hypocrite if she did this. That she actually didn't like Shanann. She didn't like how open Shanann was about her life, how she would post everything on social media. It made her really uncomfortable. The Wattses are very private. Cindy just had a weird feeling about Shanann from the beginning. Now, Cindy did say she did not like the way Shanann talked to Chris, that it was almost like she talked down to him sometimes, and she would talk about his appearance a lot, and it just showed her how shallow she was. And Cindy said it was like Chris was always looking for her approval, like to the extent of buying this girl a $12,000 engagement ring. Cindy said all of this kind of bothered her on how materialistic Shanann was too, because they were simple people. They didn't need anything flashy and big, but Shanann really liked nice things. I mean, she built a $500,000 home with 3 formal dining rooms, expensive furniture everywhere, and pieces even flown in from Italy. But Shanann did work really hard for all of this. It's not like she didn't earn it. From selling Thrive, she actually made more money than Chris and Anadarko. But if you watch my first video, you know that sometime before the end of her life, they did file bankruptcy. So a guy that Chris has met in prison is named Dylan Tallman that we need to discuss. If any of you have followed Chris Watts updates, you will know about the next person I'm about to talk about. Chris met a guy named Dylan Tallman in prison. They're best friends, and he's in there for burglary. They do consider themselves brothers to the point that they're writing a spiritual book together. But a big headline that was in the news just a little bit ago was that in Dylan Tallman's cell, they found some belongings of Chris Watts. Chris has claimed to find Jesus since he's in prison, so hopefully he can get forgiveness from God, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not there yet. And something that's popped up on YouTube actually is there was 2 YouTubers that went to the Frederick Police Department in Colorado. They went to the girl that's over evidence and asked for the Chris Watts file. It's public record, so she was able to pull it, and they were just going through it, and I think they were recording where she couldn't really tell. And in some of the paperwork, they found that there was fingerprints that were never tested from the crime scene. And so they asked the lady, hey, why were these other fingerprints never identified? And she explained that the minute that Chris Watts said that he was guilty and he acted alone, they closed the case completely and never tested any other evidence. Now we're going to get into a little bit about Nicole, because people came forward about Nicole. Chris just still wants Nicole so bad. He talks about being so obsessed with her, like she just drives him crazy. And he does talk about welcoming a black force around him, he thinks, when he met her. He claims that Nicole is dark and has dark energy that surrounds her. And people think that her being into witchcraft and knowing how to do those types of things is why she has gotten away with so much in this case. Like, she never even got her text messages subpoenaed. They didn't look through anything of Nicole's at all, including her interrogation was so weird. So weird. They let her ask and lead that whole thing. Chris has talked about that he has witnessed her doing things that he will never speak of. They freak him out so bad. And he believes that he was possessed by a demon when he killed his family. But the weird thing is that Chris is still very protective of Nicole. He won't speak bad of her. He won't say any type of involvement she had, and has came out and said he still wants to be with her. Nicole did cooperate with the police, but there were 4 pings on her phone that the PI found that matched Frederick. On July 14th at 10:28 a.m., there was a ping. And if you remember, that's the day that Chris and Nicole went to the car museum together. And then there was 2 pings on July 18th at 4:34 p.m. and 4:40 p.m. And these pings were from her calling Chris. And then there was one last ping the morning of the murders at 6:16 a.m. on August 13th. And at 5:17 a.m. is when Chris put his family in his truck and left. And her call logs also showed that he spent an hour and 11 minutes on the phone with Nicole hours before the murder. And then he spent 2 hours on the phone with her that night. And neither claim they remember what either of those phone calls were about. Nobody knows where Nicole is. We're pretty sure she has changed her name. And Nicole has never given one interview to defend herself. But Chris does get a postcard from Hawaii with some weird cryptic message about cornbread that he is absolutely convinced is Nicole, not cornbread, banana bread. Now, another person we are going to talk about is Sherilyn Cadle. She was a 65-year-old woman at the time of all of this that was writing Chris letters. She did end up visiting him a couple times, sometimes for 5 hours. And she was telling him that the best thing he could do was be upfront and honest about what happened. That way somebody can find warning signs in their husband that's about to do this, or their family member, friend, something like that. So she ended up putting everything together in a book called Letters for Christopher that was released on October 7th, 2021. And what he ended up telling her was he admitted to the murders and said that he had been planning them for 3 to 4 weeks before this. He planned to kill Shanann first and then the girls later on, and then he could go start his new life. Now, mind you, if we're still going with Chris's timeline of when him and Nicole got together, he'd been planning these murders for 3 to 4 weeks before he did it, which means at bare minimum he knew Nicole for 2 weeks before he was planning to kill his whole family to start a new life with her. He has said to her and his dad that he has wished over and over that he just went to this Rockies game with his friends instead of seeing Nicole that night. So, like, did something happen when he went on this date with Nicole? I mean, why would it have been different if he went to the Rockies game and not on this date with Nicole? He said he remembered tucking the girls in and thinking, this is the last time I will ever be doing this, which physically makes me sick to think that that didn't stop him. He had told her that he did try to smother the girls first, but he just couldn't. And the girls woke up with bruises all over their necks and were completely traumatized. And he said that he was shocked that little quiet Bella had so much of a fight in her. Fucking disgusting. He said he initially lied to the FBI because they shocked him coming and interviewing him like that. And he said that he did the interview after he was in prison with the FBI that I talked about when he told us everything that happened to them. That he did that interview to completely clear Shanann's name since he tried to put it on her earlier. So, I mean, good for him. Sherilyn doesn't believe that the postcard is from Nicole that he's claiming talks about banana bread, but she does believe that he just really needs to believe it is. And Chris's new girlfriend that's in prison, one of the girls that's writing him, does not like Sherilyn. She even tried to stop Sherilyn publishing the book, but Sherilyn already had a letter written from Chris with his approval. She did do an interview with Scott Reich that was an hour and a half long, and she talked a little bit more in detail of things that Chris had told her. Sherilyn was very neutral in this situation. She did not defend Chris really at all. She thinks he is exactly where he deserves to be and thinks what he did to Shanann and the girls is horrendous. So just because she wrote this book about him doesn't mean she's on his side per se. But she claimed that he just seems very delusional and that his thought processes hardly makes sense. He claimed that he felt controlled his whole entire life, that it started with his mom because she would always ask him what he was thinking and why he thought the way he did, and always tried to control that he liked her more than his dad and spent more time with her than him, and was just very overbearing. And then he got together with Shanann, which is how the way Shanann was. Their life was on social media, so there was a camera on his face all the time. Always do this for me or do that on the video, pose this way on the pictures. Very controlling also. And now he's in prison, which controls every aspect of your life for the rest of his life. She said that he is not able to receive money in prison, so the rumors of people sending him all this money is just false. He can't get any of that. So she never paid him for any part of this book. All the money went to somewhat her because she put in a ton of work and time into it, and then she distributed it with charities and donating it. And she has also tried to find a way to send Shanann's family quite a bit of the proceeds also. She also said that he keeps those photos of the girls and Shanann in his cell. Everybody gets that weird feeling when Chris is trying to talk about being a dad. But Chris doesn't understand why everyone's so upset that he's calling himself a dad. And that's what she means by he's like out of touch with reality. He's just somewhere over there. So then the next person we are going to bring up is a guy who got out of prison, supposedly with Chris Watts, and just aired out all his on the Daily Mail. So David spoke to the Daily Mail telling them that he was in a cell near Chris Watts. He was in prison for meth possession and stealing from his job at Arby's. He said that Chris works in the prison kitchen as a butcher, and he spends any free time he has in the library studying for an appeal. Now, David said he keeps pictures of the two girls, but he does not keep a picture of Shanann in it. And that Chris has told him that he has the same nightmare every night of the girls playing catch in his cell. And this is where the story just starts making you shake your head and say, "Oh, David." David tried to tell the Daily Mail that Chris told him that he killed his whole family because he didn't want to pay child support and that he was scared Shanann would take the house in the divorce. Mind you, the house Shanann herself paid to have built, and that he also didn't want Nico. He says that Chris gets a lot of death threats from the prisoners all the time, and that David did say that Chris told him Nicole was writing him. And he claims that the prison authorities found out it was Nicole and punished him cruelly for it by ending their contact. But David did say that Chris absolutely has turned his life to God and that he has become a really good person. And I just have to say, I really just don't care. And then after this Daily Mail article started circulating, he jumped on a live stream of someone on YouTube to discuss things more. He admitted to looking up how popular the Daily Mail was before contacting them for a story. And he did claim on this live stream that Dylan and Chris were lovers. Yes, Dylan Tallman. Now, I did mention earlier his appeal. He has been trying to file an appeal. His team has been looking up loopholes in his case, and he really has went on this point of he didn't feel mentally in the correct headspace to take a polygraph test and talk to the police. He said that he was completely manipulated into it, and he just didn't feel like it was his choice. And he says that he spent a lot of time in the law library studying his case and things about it, and that he feels that God has led him to the right directions. And him and his girlfriend Anna called a PI on three-way, and he talked to Chris and pretty much told him just don't give up, just never take no for an answer and keep going. So it really pumped his head up, probably just to get a paycheck for a phone call, but whatever. And he did end up filing a 35C, and it's for him to be wanting to get his sentence reduced. I don't know much about that because I think that's just a Colorado thing. And that is all the updates I have for Chris Watts. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for me and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. Also, there's a GoFundMe link below for Crystal Young. If you don't know that, go look up my video and see why her mom needs this PI so badly. And then also, I have stickers still for sale. All proceeds go to the Cold Case Foundation, so it is for a good cause. That link will also be in the description box below. Alright, and I will see you guys in Crimetober. Wow, I can't believe it's already here. I'll see you in the next one.